You know, there are endless discussions in the internet whether vintage guitars are actually superior to modern ones. I'm not a big fan of those because neither of sides are completely true. I truly believe that there are absolutely amazing guitars made today. But at the same time, you know, part of my heart still believes that there is a reason why some of those guitars are considered to be the notorious Stradivari instruments of the rock era, like the revered Les Paul 1959. And one of the main reasons is probably the people behind this. You know, there is a brand, but any brand is first of all a collection of absolutely talented and amazing people. Like Ted McCarthy, the director of Gibson, used to say, speak to all your workers, know everybody, speak to every janitor, know his name, know his wife's name, know when his children's birthdays. That's the only way to do the things. That's the only way to do the business. Unfortunately, a few unsuccessful business decisions led Gibson company basically to an edge of bankruptcy in the 1986. And first of those was in 1974 when Norlin took over the rulership of Gibson guitars. And the second one happened basically the very next year. You know, this era started, and one of the first decisions of new company management was to open a new factory in Nashville, and basically to force all the workers who used to work at Kalamazoo, the original Parson Street 225 factory, to move to a new place, many kilometers from the original one. And of course, there have been a lot of objections. This grand relocation basically finished in 1985, and basically Gibson just shut down the production at the historical Kalamazoo factory. Just to put it into perspective, Orville Gibson, the founder of Gibson Company, put his life onto making Gibson one of the greatest instrument manufacturers in USA. In 1917, he finally moves the production into the newly built, basically custom order factory, especially to make those mandolins and guitars. And he dies the very next year as if it was the main thing he could have done in life, and he fulfilled it, and he could, you know, let it go. And it indeed was going really strong. You know, there have been hard years. There have been the Great Depression years during the 30s when the company, or rather the factory itself, used to make kids' toys. There was, of course, World War II years when they used to make supplies for the army. But, of course, there have been golden years. There have been the 50s when this factory witnessed the legendary Ted McCarthy. This factory witnessed the creation of Les Paul, SG, ES335, Explorer, Flying V. You know, everything happened there. It's like some sort of rock mecca of its time. And it's no wonder that actually nowadays the Rolling Stones magazine has plans to create you know, like a rock museum, historical village, something like this at this place. There are plans to build a rock hotel there, like Hard Rock Hotel, you know, like part of Hard Rock Cafe series, because this is truly legendary place. But at the same moment you will ask, like, what's been happening all these years? If Gibson shut down the production in '85, what's been after? So in the 70s, new factory in Nashville is opened, and Gibson starts to transfer everything from Kalamazoo to Nashville, and it's a pretty long way. And naturally, there have been many objections. Because for many of them, for Jim Deurloo, for Marv Lamb, for JP Moats, it was more than just a workplace. It was all their life. You know, they started as teenagers. They've been making Gibsons all their lives. And they just couldn't support these decisions, and most importantly, they just couldn't make their families, you know, just move from the original homeland. So they just made an amazing decision to buy out the factory from Gibson, to buy out the whole production line with all of machinery, and to continue to do the thing they know how to do the best: amazing guitars. So they did, and it proved to be absolutely successful, because you know, the legacy of this craftsman, it lingered on. You know, they had a lot to say, they had a lot to do with their hands, and so over the years it make a lot of really major guitarists take interest and gravitate toward heritage guitars, because there was truly something really special and analog behind them. You know, they have this really old school attitude of like, hell, I'm not gonna change, you know, don't even ask me to. Just think about it, it's absolutely crazy. It's 21st century outside. There are metaverse, there is people going into virtual reality on a daily basis, and at the same time, those guys from Heritage Guitars keeps making those carved tops on the old school machinery from the 60s. It just works, you know, when you don't have such a large scale of production, when you are able to make just so much guitars throughout the day, you just forced to pay so much more attention to any one of those. You are just so much more connected to any of guitars that leave the factory. That it just, you know, there is a room for human error as always. But this is the kind of error that we, the human species, tend to love. Because none of the instruments are perfect, and I hope they never will be. Because at this moment, my life as a musician will be absolutely over. You know, it's an absolutely joy to take every new guitar and try it out, to see how it speaks, to see what it has to say. And this is the kind of instrument that has a lot to say, and you feel it, and it's just so fun to play. It's so weird to have this kind of like vintage experience and at the same time realize that you're holding a completely new guitar, fresh from the factory. What else is different besides that headstock? And by the way, headstock is a whole different thing of its own. It may seem a little bit, you know, not connected, but at the same time, if you just dig a few of old photos of Gibson archtops from the 20s and 30s, like, you know, L5 model, it's weirdly close. The name of the company itself, Heritage, it's a little bit mocking type of name, but it is still there. It is made fantastically close in terms of feeling, so you get in your hands exactly what you expect to feel. A really nice, solid, chunky guitar, which is heavy, but still not too much. They tend to choose their woods really wisely, because out of those guitars I've tried so far, all of them in the range of being, you know, pretty light for a Les Paul shape. They actually make all of their bodies one piece. So it's like a strict policy, which is really nice to see, because it's one of those little things that you usually try to search to, you know, to have a one-piece body. And in case of Heritage guitars, you don't have to search, it's always there. The shape is kind of reminiscent of, you know, 59, but you know, it's impossible to judge exactly in terms of years, because back in those days, hello, one more time to the Winter Technologies, and necks wasn't made exactly the same. Even though it's 59, still a little of a mistake, you know, at the standing stage, and you will make it a little thinner. So it's like a thinner version of 59 neck. Really nice, rounded, you know, you have the meat, but still it's really easy to grab all the notes. And one more thing before I move too far away from the headstock is, of course, the fact that because of this new headstock shape, which is a little bit thinner, you have a smaller breaking angle at the nut. So, you know, you see this angle at which string goes to the side after it crosses the nut. And if you have a less of an angle, it means you have less of a friction. Your string is able to move up and down a little bit more freely during the bends and doesn't get caught so much in the nut, which results in a better, more stable tuning generally. It's not a huge difference, but it's also really nice to have those little touches that improve, that are not just done for the sake of it. Of course, all of you are wondering how does it sound? Well, oh boy, it has this creamy type of sound, and it has this fantastic dynamic. Playing so much like a game, you know, when you can just circle around a few chords and with a few minor dynamic changes create an amazing texture. And this is what, like, in my mind, guitars like this been all about, you know. It's not about going like too complicated, but about going crazy with textures and little movements. It's like sound design, basically. And it's certainly the type of guitar with which you can create an amazing texture with just one note. Of course, when you just kick in a little bit of distortion, it turns into this. Well, no comments here. It's just pure joy to play. I've mentioned a few guys who joined the Heritage family basically, and among them is Gary Moore, who had a signature model released in '89, and there was a really limited run, and he played those guitar extensively during the tours in '89 and '90, and you can actually find the guitar on the album cover. So any Gary Moore fans out there, you should certainly be familiar with this headstock. There is of course Alvin Lee, the legend of Woodstock, the leader of 10 Years After company, who also had his signature ES335 made with Heritage. There is one more legend, it's Kenny Burrell, one of the greatest jazz guitar players of all time, because he used to play with everyone. He recorded for Ella Fitzgerald, he was playing with Benny Goodman Orchestra, he toured with Oscar Peterson. Open his Wikipedia page, you're gonna be blown away because this man been everywhere. He also has a signature model which is based on Heritage Super Eagle model, which in its turn it's like some kind of variation on Gibson L5 and Super 400, full body arch top. But this is probably a theme for another video, because it's a whole wide different world of those jazz arch tops. And of course those guys are also one of the best in this department. But for today, let's focus a bit more on the Les Pauls. Heritage is still making those amazing guitars and still using the old technologies. Still, they made a little change, mostly out of healthcare concerns. They moved to a different part of the factory 3 years ago in 2021. They still moved the old machinery, the old equipment, but they had like a new dust collection system to make it more healthy for the workers who do the paint job, who do the sanding job, and which is also like better in terms of fire resistance. And this is exactly the reason why there have been those talks about making, you know, basically a museum of rock and guitar history in the old original building, or maybe turning it even into a hard rock hotel. So yeah, that's the thing that sometimes is much more important than the brand itself, because those stories are all over the guitar history if you look closely enough. There was Leo Fender who sold the company in 1965, and as soon as CBS took over, it started to cheapen the production, make some shortcuts, move in some production steps just to make it cheaper. And those led to long-lasting financial and reputational consequences. The same thing happened with Gibson during its Norlin era, and there are many more examples. Luckily, today is everything going much better. So it's really nice to see in this sea of giant, one really gentle giant that's not trying to reinvent the wheel, but to do what he loves. This kind of feeling that I have when I hold in Heritage guitars, it's kind of similar kind of respect that I have to, you know, like an old grandfather who is just enjoying his spare time, smoking a cigarette and carving a little figure out of wood, just because he enjoys the process, just because he wants to get all the angles really nice, just because he wants it to look cool and then maybe gift it to his grandchildren. There's this kind of respect to the old and masterful craft that is really vanishing quickly today in this world of virtual reality that we are moving so fast forward into. Great pleasure for us to introduce you to those amazing guitars. We have them here at Acoustic Union. We actually have a workshop in our store, so every guitar comes through our workshop to make a complete setup, to adjust everything, you know, to adjust the action, to make sure that everything is set up perfectly, because you know, guitar is made out of wood, so it requires attention and it requires some specialized professional who will tweak and tune everything as it should be. And to our surprise, Heritage have been one of those guitars that require zero to minimum attention, because they just almost perfect right out of the box. It's a really truly rare occasion, and it just shows the, first of all, the quality of wood using, because if you can see, you know, that wood travels for such a long distances, that it can survive all of this and stay almost completely intact. It just shows that it's been dried well, that it's been taken care of well, that it's been sealed well, that all the processes have been carefully taken care of. Because, you know, a lot of old guitars, like old Martins, they don't even have adjustable truss rolls. The guys who made them expected them to last even without an adjusting truss roll. So this feels like kind of the same case. But still, you do have an adjustable truss rod, so don't worry about this. Of course, we also do deliveries. We deliver to any part of the world. We care a lot about our packaging because we really want everything to get to you safe, so you can just enjoy an amazing instrument. So we always add like double layer of carton, double layer of packaging to make sure even if it gets dropped out of airplane, everything will be okay. Of course, we also insure all our packages, so you shouldn't really worry. You should just wait a few days until it arrives to you and you can enjoy a truly marvelous instrument. So yeah, check out the link below. There will be the catalog of heritage guitars available. Stay tuned and I'll come back to you with more great stories. Ciao!